Ladies and gentlemen, we often hear people talk about loving others, giving to others, and being there for others. But how often do we hear someone say, "Love yourself first"? It might sound selfish to some, but in reality, it's one of the most important things you can do for yourself and the people around you. Loving yourself isn't about vanity or narcissism. It's about acknowledging your worth, respecting your needs, and understanding that your happiness matters just as much as anyone else's. Only when we start truly loving ourselves can we truly give love to others. Loving yourself is not just a phrase or an idea, it's a way of life. It is the very foundation on which you build a healthy, fulfilling existence. When you truly love yourself, everything else falls into place. Without self-love, life can feel like a constant struggle. You might find yourself seeking validation from others, feeling insecure, or trying to please people who will never truly appreciate your worth. It is only when you love yourself that you can stop seeking approval from others and instead embrace who you are. Self-love is a profound act of self-acceptance. It's about recognizing that you are enough exactly as you are right now. In a world that constantly pressures us to be perfect, self-love is a radical choice. It's about acknowledging your imperfections and being okay with them. It's about understanding that you do not need to change yourself to fit into someone else's mold. The truth is, no one is perfect. Everyone has flaws, makes mistakes, and faces challenges. But self-love teaches you to accept yourself, imperfections and all. It allows you to forgive yourself for past mistakes and move forward with grace and compassion. When you truly love yourself, you stop comparing your life to others. You stop scrolling through social media and feeling inadequate because someone else's life seems better. You stop trying to live up to unrealistic standards set by society. Instead, you start setting your own standards based on your own values, goals, and dreams. You stop measuring your worth by other people's achievements, and instead, you focus on your own progress, no matter how small it may seem. Loving yourself first also means prioritizing your well-being. It means taking care of your body, mind, and soul. It's about listening to your body's needs, whether that's getting enough sleep, eating nourishing food, or taking time to rest. It's about recognizing when you're feeling overwhelmed and allowing yourself to take a break. So often we push ourselves too hard, trying to do everything for everyone else, and we end up neglecting ourselves. But when you love yourself, you recognize that you cannot give from an empty cup. You need to fill your own cup first. Self-love isn't selfish, though. In fact, it's the key to being able to give love to others. When you love yourself, you stop chasing love from outside sources, and instead, you start attracting love into your life. You stop settling for toxic relationships and start creating connections with people who genuinely uplift you. You set healthy boundaries, protect your peace, and only allow people into your life who respect and appreciate you for who you are. Loving yourself also means being kind to yourself. We often judge ourselves so harshly, focusing on our failures instead of our strengths. We beat ourselves up for making mistakes, when in reality, mistakes are part of the journey. When you love yourself, you treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer to a friend. You give yourself the grace to grow and learn from your experiences without holding on to guilt or shame. The more you practice self-love, the easier it becomes to embrace your true self. You stop hiding behind masks or pretending to be someone you're not. You begin to understand that your authenticity is what makes you unique and beautiful. Self-love allows you to shine brightly without fear of judgment or rejection. It frees you from the need to conform to others' expectations and allows you to live a life that feels true to who you are. Loving yourself first is not a destination, it's a lifelong practice. It takes time, patience, and commitment. But the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. The more you nurture yourself, the more you realize just how worthy you are of love, respect, and happiness. It is not something that happens overnight, but every small act of self-love compounds over time and leads to a life filled with peace, happiness, and fulfillment. Self-love is the art of accepting yourself as you are, flaws and all. This does not mean you don't strive for personal growth, but rather, it means that you recognize your worth without having to be perfect. Perfection is an illusion, and the idea that we need to constantly improve ourselves to be deserving of love is a myth. True self-love begins with the understanding that you are already enough. You are enough not because you've achieved a certain goal or conquered some obstacle, but simply because you exist. So often we are our harshest critics. We look at ourselves through a lens of judgment, always focusing on our perceived weaknesses. We compare ourselves to others, convinced that they have something we lack, but this constant comparison only feeds insecurity and self-doubt. The truth is, everyone has their own journey, their own struggles, and their own pace. You cannot judge your progress by someone else's. What's important is that you are moving forward, regardless of how fast or slow that might seem. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a victory. Loving yourself means giving yourself permission to be imperfect. It means accepting that you will make mistakes, that you will face challenges, and that you will fall down sometimes. But falling down is not a reflection of your worth. It's a part of being human. Each mistake is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become stronger. When you love yourself, you give yourself the space to make mistakes without the fear of judgment. You stop punishing yourself for not being perfect, and instead, you embrace your humanity. Self-love is also about forgiving yourself. We all have things we regret, moments in the past that we wish we could change. But holding onto guilt or shame only holds you back from moving forward. Forgiveness is not about excusing past behavior. It's about releasing the hold that those memories have over you. When you forgive yourself, you free yourself from the chains of the past and allow yourself to fully embrace the present. You stop carrying the weight of what you could have done differently and focus on what you can do now. Learning to love yourself also means acknowledging your worth without needing validation from others. In a world where external validation seems to be the currency of self-worth, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking approval from others. Whether it's through likes on social media, compliments from friends, or recognition at work, we often base our value on how others see us. But when you love yourself, you realize that your worth is not defined by anyone else's opinion. You no longer feel the need to seek constant approval, because you know deep down that you are worthy just as you are. This doesn't mean you should shut others out or stop valuing their opinions, but it does mean that you should never let someone else's view of you become your reality. You set your own standards and you define your own worth. When you love yourself, you don't need to seek validation from the outside world because you have already validated yourself. You are your own biggest cheerleader, and that's enough. Self-love also requires setting boundaries. It means knowing when to say no and when to protect your energy. For far too long, many people have been taught to be self-sacrificial, to put others' needs above their own. While caring for others is important, it should not come at the expense of your own well-being. Setting boundaries allows you to protect your peace, to create space for your needs, and to prioritize your happiness. When you love yourself, you don't feel guilty for taking time for yourself. You recognize that you cannot pour into others if you are running on empty. Learning to love yourself can be a lifelong journey, especially if you've been conditioned to think that self-love is selfish. But as you practice self-love, you begin to understand that it is the key to everything else in life. It is the foundation for healthy relationships, emotional well-being, being, and personal growth. It is the key to living a life that feels authentic and aligned with your true self. When you love yourself, you begin to see the world differently. You stop seeing yourself as broken or incomplete. You start seeing yourself as whole, worthy of love, respect, and success. You begin to attract the things that are meant for you, because you are no longer in the business of chasing after things that don't align with who you truly are. You trust that the right people, opportunities, and experiences will come into your life when you embrace your true self. True self? Love is not about narcissism or selfishness. It's about recognizing your inherent worth and treating yourself with the same kindness, compassion, and respect that you would offer to others. It's about being kind to yourself on the days when things don't go as planned, and showing yourself grace when things are difficult. When you love yourself, you stop holding yourself to impossible standards, and instead you allow yourself to be human. And in doing so, you open up the space to live a life that is rich in peace, contentment, and fulfillment. Self-love means setting boundaries and protecting your energy. Many of us are taught to be kind, generous, and helpful to others, and while these qualities are important, they often come at the cost of our own well-being. We're conditioned to say yes to others' needs, even when it's at the expense of our own. We fear disappointing others, or we worry that saying no might make us seem selfish or unkind. But in reality, constantly putting others first can lead to burnout, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Loving yourself means learning when and how to say no, and understanding that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. Setting boundaries is a form of self-respect. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable, and that you have the right to protect them. When you love yourself, you don't allow people or situations to drain you. You understand that you can't be everything to everyone, and that's okay. Saying no is not a rejection of others, but rather an affirmation of your own needs. It's a reminder that you have the right to take care of yourself, and that doing so doesn't make you selfish. It makes you responsible for your own happiness. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships. When you don't have boundaries, you may find yourself in situations where you feel taken advantage of, disrespected, or overwhelmed. Without boundaries, people may not even realize they are crossing a line, and you may be too afraid to speak up. But when you set clear boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. You let them know what is acceptable and what is not, and you make it clear that your time and energy are not to be taken for granted. This not only protects you, but also strengthens your relationships, as mutual respect is the foundation of any healthy connection. When you love yourself, you learn to recognize the difference between the things that nourish you and the things that drain you. You understand that you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving to others without taking time for yourself, eventually you will burn out. Self-love means taking the time to replenish your energy and focus on your own needs. It means allowing yourself to rest, to recharge, and to do things that bring you joy. You deserve time for self-care just as much as anyone else does, and taking that time is not only beneficial for you, but also for the people around you. Setting boundaries also means learning to say no to situations or people that are not aligned with your values or well-being. It's about recognizing that you have the right to choose what you allow into your life. If someone or something is causing you stress, anxiety, or negativity, it's okay to distance yourself from it. This might mean saying no to a social event that drains you, declining a request for your time that doesn't serve you, or even walking away from relationships that are toxic or unfulfilling. Loving yourself means acknowledging that you don't have to tolerate things that harm your peace or well-being. It's important to note that setting boundaries isn't about being rigid or unkind. It's about being intentional with your time and energy. You can still be compassionate, caring, and helpful to others, but you also need to be mindful of your own limits. Setting boundaries is an act of self-care, not selfishness. When you take care of yourself first, you are better able to show up for others in a meaningful and sustainable way. You won't be operating on empty, and you'll be able to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion. Learning to say no also means understanding that you cannot please everyone. Not everyone will agree with your boundaries, and that's okay. Some people may try to push you to give more than you're comfortable with, and they might even make you feel guilty for saying no. But loving yourself means standing firm in your decisions and knowing that your boundaries are not only valid, but necessary. You don't need anyone's approval to protect your well-being. When you prioritize yourself, you set a powerful example for others to do the same. In many ways, setting boundaries is an act of empowerment. It's a declaration that you value yourself enough to protect your time, your energy, and your peace. It's a reminder that you don't have to be everything to everyone, and that it's okay to put yourself first when necessary. As you learn to set and enforce boundaries, you will find that your relationships become more balanced and fulfilling, and your sense of self-worth grows stronger. Loving yourself means giving yourself permission to take up space, to say no when needed, and to create a life that honors your needs, desires, and well-being. Loving yourself first means you start to build better relationships and attract positivity into your life. The way you feel about yourself deeply affects the relationships you have with others. If you don't love yourself, it's easy to fall into relationships that aren't healthy or fulfilling, or to allow toxic people to take up space in your life. But when you love yourself, you naturally set the tone for the kind of relationships you attract. Self-love allows you to stop settling for less than you deserve and empowers you to seek out relationships that are supportive, nurturing, and uplifting. When you love yourself, you start to realize that you don't need to chase love or approval from others. You stop seeking validation through the actions or opinions of others because you are already whole and complete within yourself. This mindset shift helps you build relationships based on mutual respect and appreciation, rather than neediness or dependency. You begin to attract people who value you for who you truly are, and who bring positive energy into your life. This is because when you love yourself, you radiate confidence, self-assurance, and kindness, which are qualities that draw like-minded individuals into your circle. Loving yourself also means learning to set healthy boundaries in relationships. Boundaries are crucial for maintaining a sense of self-respect and for protecting your emotional well-being. Without boundaries, it's easy to give too much of yourself to others, whether that's emotionally, mentally, or physically, leaving you drained and depleted. But when you love yourself, you understand the importance of saying no when necessary and of standing firm in what you need from others. Setting clear boundaries allows you to protect your energy, and it also teaches others how to treat you. You create space for healthy, balanced relationships where both parties feel valued and respected. Self-love teaches you how to communicate effectively and assertively. When you love yourself, you know that your feelings, opinions, and needs are just as important as anyone else's. You are able to express yourself clearly and confidently, without fear of judgment or rejection. This enables you to have honest, open conversations with the people in your life, which strengthens your connections and helps resolve conflicts in a healthy way. Instead of internalizing your feelings or letting them fester, you communicate them in a respectful and constructive manner, fostering deeper understanding and trust in your relationships. Another significant aspect of loving yourself and building better relationships is learning to forgive, not just others, but also yourself. Holding on to past grudges, resentment, or guilt can weigh heavily on your heart and prevent you from fully connecting with others. But when you love yourself, you understand the importance of letting go of negative emotions. Forgiveness frees you from the burden of carrying that emotional weight, allowing you to heal and move forward. It doesn't mean you condone bad behavior, but rather, it means you release yourself from the power that anger, hurt, and resentment have over you. Forgiveness creates space for healthier, more loving relationships, where understanding and empathy take precedence over blame and judgment. Loving yourself also means you stop accepting poor treatment from others. It's easy to tolerate disrespect or mistreatment when you don't value yourself. But when you love yourself, you draw the line. You realize that you deserve to be treated with kindness, consideration, and respect. You begin to see when a relationship is unhealthy, and you have the courage to walk away from it if necessary. Self-love gives you the strength to make difficult decisions, such as ending relationships that no longer serve your well-being or allowing space for relationships that are toxic. You understand that your worth is not tied to how others treat you, but rather to how you treat yourself and the standards you set for the way you deserve to be treated. As you learn to love yourself, you start to create a life filled with positive energy. You attract people who uplift you, inspire you, and encourage you to be your best self. Your relationships become more fulfilling because you are coming from a place of self-worth, not desperation or insecurity. You attract people who respect your boundaries, value your time, and appreciate you for who you are. In turn, you also become more positive and supportive towards others, as loving yourself allows you to extend love and kindness freely. Self-love sets the foundation for all of your relationships, as it allows you to show up as your authentic self, free from self-doubt or insecurity. When you love yourself, you naturally become a magnet for the love and positivity that you deserve. Self-love is not a one-time event but a continuous practice that evolves and deepens over time. It is a commitment to yourself, one that requires consistent effort, reflection, and growth. The more you practice self-love, the easier it becomes to maintain, and the more you begin to see the profound effects it has on every aspect of your life. It affects the way you interact with others, the decisions you make, and how you handle the challenges that life inevitably throws at you. It shapes your relationship with yourself, creating a foundation of inner peace, confidence, and resilience. The practice of self-love requires you to constantly check in with yourself and ask, "How am I doing?" It's about listening to your own needs, tuning into your emotions, and being honest with yourself about what you need in any given moment. This means taking a step back from the busyness of life and giving yourself the space to reflect on your well-being. It might be a moment of silence, a walk in nature, or simply sitting with yourself without distractions. This practice of pausing allows you to reconnect with yourself and assess whether you're on the right path. When you practice self-love, you begin to develop an awareness of the patterns in your life. You start noticing when you're giving too much of yourself to others, when you're neglecting your own needs, or when you're stuck in negative self-talk. You learn to identify these moments and consciously choose to act differently. Self-love teaches you how to become your own best friend. You stop judging yourself harshly and instead start offering yourself the same compassion and understanding you would give to a loved one. When you make mistakes, you no longer berate yourself. Instead, you offer yourself forgiveness and encouragement, knowing that growth comes from the willingness to try and learn, not from perfection. As you continue practicing self-love, you also begin to set more intentional goals that align with your values and desires. You start to recognize that your time, energy, and attention are precious resources. You begin to ask yourself what truly matters and what serves your highest good. This allows you to make choices that are aligned with your authentic self, rather than being influenced by external pressures or fleeting desires. You begin to recognize that your dreams, your goals, and your desires are important, and you start taking action toward them step by step. Self-love also helps you develop a healthier relationship with your emotions. Rather than suppressing or ignoring your feelings, you learn to honor them. You allow yourself to feel your emotions fully, whether they are joy, sadness, frustration, or fear. When you practice self-love, you understand that your emotions are valid and that it's okay to experience them. You learn not to attach shame or guilt to your feelings, but to embrace them as part of your human experience. This emotional awareness allows you to process your feelings more effectively and avoid letting them build up into negative patterns of behavior or self-sabotage. By accepting your emotions, you create the space for healing and self-acceptance. Another key aspect of practicing self-love is learning how to trust yourself. So often, we doubt our decisions, question our abilities, or second-guess our instincts. Self-love helps you build trust in your own judgment and decisions. It teaches you to believe in your worth and capability, even when others may not. This trust in yourself provides the confidence to take risks, pursue your goals, and navigate life's challenges with a sense of assurance. You stop waiting for external validation and start trusting that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. The more you practice self-love, the more you begin to see the impact it has on your relationships with others. As you learn to set boundaries, prioritize your needs, and communicate more openly, you begin to attract healthier and more fulfilling relationships. When you love yourself, you stop accepting disrespect or mistreatment. You recognize that you deserve to be surrounded by people who uplift and support you, and you make choices accordingly. This doesn't mean that you expect perfection from others, but rather, you create space for relationships that are built on mutual respect, understanding, and kindness. Ultimately, practicing self-love transforms the way you see yourself and the world around you. You begin to see yourself as worthy of love, happiness, and success. You stop looking for validation outside of yourself because you already know your worth. As you continue on this journey of self-love, you create a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, and aligned with who you truly are. This journey may be long and filled with challenges, but every step you take in love, kindness, and acceptance brings you closer to the best version of yourself. Loving yourself first means freeing yourself from the constant need for comparison. In a world where we are bombarded by images of success, beauty, and happiness on social media, it can be easy to get lost in the cycle of comparing yourself to others. We scroll through Instagram, Facebook, or any other platform, and suddenly it feels like everyone else is living a better, more exciting, or more successful life than ours. But the reality is that the images we see online are often a highlight reel, not the full story. When you constantly compare yourself to others, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are overlooking your own uniqueness and the beautiful qualities that make you, you. Every person's journey is different, and just because someone else seems to have it all together, doesn't mean they do. It doesn't mean you are any less worthy or capable. The act of comparing yourself to others often leads to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. It tricks you into thinking that you are not enough or that you are falling behind. This mindset can hold you back from your true potential. It can cause you to question your worth, when in fact you are exactly where you need to be at this moment in time. The truth is, your path is unique. No one else has lived the experiences you have. No one else has the same set of skills, talents, and insights that you bring to the world. When you love yourself, you stop measuring your progress based on where someone else is. You start measuring it based on your own growth. Every little step you take, every milestone you achieve, no matter how small it may seem, is a victory. The beauty of loving yourself is that it allows you to recognize your own strengths, achievements, and potential without needing anyone else's validation. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you open the door to self-discovery. You start to see your worth in a new light. You start to appreciate your own talents, your own progress, and your own story. Rather than getting stuck in the comparison game, you focus on what you have achieved and what you still have to offer. You realize that your value isn't tied to someone else's success or failure. It's based on your own journey, and that's something worth celebrating. Self-love teaches you to embrace your individuality. The things that make you different from others are what make you special. Your quirks, your personality, and your passions are all parts of who you are, and they contribute to the unique energy you bring into the world. When you love yourself, you stop trying to fit into a mold that wasn't made for you. You stop trying to please everyone or conform to expectations that don't serve you. Instead, you embrace the person you are without apology. Loving yourself and stopping the comparison also means practicing gratitude. It's about looking at your life and appreciating everything you have, even the things you might have taken for granted before. When you compare yourself to others, it's easy to forget all the blessings you have in your own life. Self-love brings you back to a place of gratitude where you start recognizing the beauty in the things you already have. Instead of feeling envious of someone else's success, you feel inspired by it. You realize that their achievements don't diminish yours. In fact, they show you what's possible for you. Being grateful for where you are allows you to embrace the journey rather than focusing solely on the destination. Life is not a race, and there is no finish line. It's a continuous process of learning, growing, and evolving. When you compare yourself to others, you miss the magic of your own journey. You fail to see how far you've come and how much you've accomplished. But when you love yourself, you stop rushing. You take the time to appreciate every moment, every lesson, and every step along the way. Another aspect of loving yourself and ceasing the comparison is recognizing that other people's success doesn't take away from your own. We often think that if someone else is successful, it means there is less room for us. But that's not true. The world is full of opportunities, and there is enough room for everyone to thrive. Someone else's success is not a reflection of your shortcomings. It is proof that success is possible. And when you love yourself, you can celebrate others' victories instead of resenting them. You can learn from their journey, be inspired by their growth, and find motivation in their achievements. Ultimately, comparing yourself to others only steals your peace and happiness. It distracts you from your own potential and success. When you focus on your own path and stop measuring your worth against someone else's, you can truly begin to flourish. Loving yourself means releasing the hold that comparison has on you, allowing yourself to be free to grow and evolve at your own pace. It means acknowledging that your journey is yours alone, and that's exactly how it's meant to be. You are not in competition with anyone else. You are simply competing with the person you were yesterday. When you love yourself, you stop needing to compare and instead begin to truly appreciate the person you are becoming.